a former foreign minister humiliated on the world stage, a chancellor whose own coalition is crumbling under him, a pension scandal that tells ordinary Germans exactly where they stand, and a confession from the woman who ran the country for 16 years. Stay with me, because by the end, the picture these stories paint together is bigger than any one of them. Before we get into it, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want clear, independent coverage of what's actually happening in Europe. It genuinely helps. Let's start with Annalena Baerbock. The former German foreign minister from the Greens is the center of a storm right now, and it is not the kind of storm any politician wants. Germany just lost its bid for a rotating seat on the United Nations Security Council. Lost it. And the criticism that followed has been brutal, and not only at home. Here is the part that stings. The attacks are coming from Africa. The former president of Botswana, Mokgweetsi Masisi, gave an interview to Bild and called Baerbock's approach, and I'm quoting the spirit of it, arrogant and disrespectful. He accused her of trying to lecture Africans on how to run their own affairs, on environmental policy, on everyday matters. He put it bluntly. She should have focused on actually doing German diplomacy instead of telling people where to build their toilets and how to deal with their elephants. Think about that for a second. A former head of state is publicly mocking German foreign policy as condescending. And he says directly that this attitude is exactly what cost Germany votes in Africa. A former deputy environment minister from Namibia piled on too, calling the German approach simply wrong. And it doesn't stop at the border. Inside Germany, the party of Chancellor Friedrich Merz is now demanding that Baerbock be summoned before the Bundestag, the German parliament, to explain how the country fumbled this vote. So she's being mocked abroad and dragged in front of parliament at home. That is a very public, very visible humiliation of someone who, until recently, represented Germany to the entire world. Now, why does this matter beyond one politician's bad week? Because it's a symptom. When your diplomacy is being openly ridiculed by the very countries you were trying to court, that's not a personnel problem. That's a credibility problem, and Germany's credibility is exactly what's on the line in the next story. Let's talk about money. Specifically, the money your representatives are quietly setting aside for themselves. A request from the Left Party in Germany pulled back the curtain on something that, frankly, should make every working German furious. Here it is. A single 4-year term in the Bundestag earns a member of parliament pension benefits comparable to what an ordinary worker gets after 28 years of contributions. 28 years. 4 years in parliament equals 28 years of your working life. And it was about to get worse. With a planned raise to lawmakers' salaries, that gap would have stretched to the equivalent of 29 years because a deputy's pension is tied directly to their salary. Right now, members of parliament earn around €11,800 a month. Starting in July, that was supposed to climb to €12,300. Then, given the economic situation, the situation everyone keeps calling serious, they postponed the raise for 1 year. How generous. A representative from the Left Party, Sarah Wagenknecht's former colleague Sarah Wollert, called the whole system absurd. And she nailed it. Decades of honest labor earn a citizen the same as a politician gets for a single term. You work your entire adult life, and a politician matches your pension in 4 years. If you wanted one sentence to explain why trust in German institutions is collapsing, that might be it. And speaking of confessions, let's bring in someone who knows a thing or two about how Germany got here, Angela Merkel. The woman who ran the country for 16 years sat down for an interview, and she admitted some things that are, let's say, convenient to admit now that someone else has to clean up the mess. She acknowledged that defense spending grew too slowly under her leadership. Her explanation? She was busy dealing with the aftermath of the global financial crisis, so military budgets just couldn't grow fast enough. But the bigger admission was this. Merkel conceded that her migration policy fueled the rise of the nationalist alternative for Germany. In her own words, it was her decision that helped drive up support for the AfD. She admitted her own role in creating the political force now reshaping the country. And current Chancellor Merz has already warned that the AfD could score serious wins in September's state parliament elections in 2 federal states. There's a strange echo here. At a party convention in Linstow, Merz, of all people, reached for one of Merkel's most famous phrases. Remember, wir schaffen das. We can do this. The line she used during the 2015 migration crisis. Merz dusted it off, except this time he wasn't talking about refugees. He was talking about reforms to healthcare, pensions, and income tax. A chancellor borrowing the slogan of the very era he spent years criticizing. Make of that what you will. And while Berlin wrestles with its own collapse, Brussels is finally waking up to a fight it ignored for decades. The leader of the European People's Party, Manfred Weber, came out swinging this week. His words, enough. The time of naivety is over. Europe must defend its interests decisively. He's talking about China and a looming trade war that Europe spent years pretending it could avoid. What set him off is almost too perfect. European Union